I'm an activist. But what does that label really tell you? Let me ask you, what images came to your mind when you heard that word, activist or activism?
Tree hugger.
Tree hugger? Resist? Protesting. Interesting that the images that I showed you and the images that came into your head were very similar. But where does that come from? Well, I would suggest that it comes from the media. It comes from the movies we watch, the television, and that very, very often activism and violence are intertwined. Why is that? Why is that the story that we're told? Is that truly the case? Or is that there to stop everyone wanting to be involved? You see, there are many roles in activism. Many, many more roles than you've just spoken of. Maybe you're a business person and you create the fundraiser to sell the art of the artist who makes the placard or the poster or the t-shirt. Perhaps you're the social media guru who organizes the online event to invite the community to get involved. Maybe you're a blogger and you write that article. Maybe you're an introvert. Does that mean you can't get involved? No, not at all. In fact, your role's massively important. You're the one who sends the email to your local representative. You're the person who picks up the phone and calls that local representative, or maybe still even writes a letter. Perhaps you're a public speaker and you enjoy being in front of people, so you attend those council meetings and you attend those small community meetings to have your voice heard. Or maybe you're a musician or a poet who uses the power of your words. With one foot in the past and one in the future, the present is where we piss. Why do so many act as if blind? And why are we programmed to miss that destruction of her rainforests, the decimation of her seas, the wars in far-off places over oil, power, and greed? A lesson in compassion with meditation in schools, a study of love. That's what we all need. Maybe then we could wake up before it's too late, because we've been sent so many messengers, but they got smothered in hate. For now is the time, as tomorrow's a fiction. We live on this planet where greed's our addiction. People tend only to give when they see getting something back. The irony is, to give is the gift. Focus on what we have, not what we lack. But society's lost that connection to the power. It's created a rift. It's time for a planet-wide consciousness lift. What can I do? I'm just one person. That's what I hear people say. But imagine that change that could come in a day. No, not even a day, but simply in this moment, right now. Listen with your heart, not your mind. And you'll know how. Take time to hear the silence, as without it, there is no sound. And it's within practice of this process that all those answers are found. For we don't need to learn more, but simply remember all we forgot, as we're born with the answers, and there's not one who is not. But we're distracted by mass media and programmed to live in a constant fear, so we repeat mistake after mistake, year after year after year. The time is now for this madness to wither and die. Go on, step out of the system. Give it a try. Once you start on this journey, you'll see every moment in a new beauty and light. And you'll know that it's just right. So for me, I first got involved with activism, with the issues around the Dakota Access Pipeline, an oil pipeline that runs from North Dakota to Illinois, passing under the great Mississippi River and Lake Oahe of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Now that's their sacred lands that were under attack, and the water that they used for their sacred ceremonies was potentially going to be polluted by this pipeline. And to me, this issue actually became a pivotal point in world history, for it was the first time that so many nations from across the world came together, put their differences aside, and stood up as water protectors for clean water. Now, my journey started in Keokuk, Iowa. There was a small group of water protectors there called Mississippi Stand. And that was the point where the Dakota Access Pipeline was to be drilled underneath our mighty Mississippi River. The first night I got there, I remember there was a girl in her 20s who locked on to a moving dump truck to prevent construction. Now I saw that there weren't that many people there as water protectors. There was no real media there. And personally, I'd used the power of social media before. I had allowed people to come on with me as I went for a journey from addiction into recovery and through into spirituality. So I knew the ability of connecting with people through that medium. So I started to make some daily videos there. Now initially these videos had, 10, 15, 20, 100 people watching maybe. But gradually what I noticed was, because the media wasn't there, people were looking to myself and other people that were live streaming to become their news source, to see what was truly happening. So, unfortunately, after a lot of time, a lot of effort by Mississippi Stand, the pipeline was pulled underneath the mighty Mississippi River. It did cost Dakota Access Pipeline millions and millions of dollars in construction delays. But unfortunately, that camp finished around the beginning of last November. Now, one of the things that power of social media had done was it had not only brought attention to the camp, it also brought in a lot of supplies to help support that movement. And it had brought the local press in as well. So when the camp finished, there were all these supplies left over. And there was a small group of people who got together and decided that they were going to follow the path of the pipeline from Keokuk, Iowa, up to North Dakota, where there were already thousands of water protectors gathered at Standing Rock. So we took that 16-hour drive with a U-Haul full of donations. But prior to taking that drive, again using the power of social media, I'd not only been able to ascertain out of the 3 camps that were there, which was in the most need of the donations and supplies that we had, but I'd also found a girl who'd been there since early August who would be our guide when we got there. So today, it's actually my pleasure and honor to be your guide so you can see what Ocheti Sakowin Camp at Standing Rock truly was. Doesn't it take your breath away? Look at this sea of modern tents with yurts and traditional teepees, the sun shining brightly over it. Now, before we take a walk through and learn what this place is about, I just need to let you know the simple rules that this place runs by. It's a peaceful, prayerful camp. So there is no weapons, violence, alcohol, or drugs allowed here. Also, with regards to photographs, we have to be respectful. There are sacred fires and ceremonies that take place. Please don't take any photographs around those. And if you're not sure if it's okay to take a photograph, please just ask someone before assuming it's okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is right here. This is the sacred fire. It's been burning since April. And this is where you can come at any point in the day to make an offering of sage, cedar, or tobacco. In fact, every morning if you get up with the sun, You'll be able to join everyone here for a sacred pipe ceremony. And also, you'll be able to go on the water ceremony, which is led by the women, down to the river, the very water that we're here to protect. Now, since being here myself, I've had the pleasure of having conversations with people from all over the globe. I've met people from England, Australia, New Zealand, Tunisia, Israel, Italy, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and of course, all over the US and Canada. Maybe we'll meet some of these people as we go around today. Over here, you have one of the many kitchens. These are all staffed by volunteers and feed thousands of people every single day throughout the day and night. Now, here no one has a job. You can do whatever you want to do or not do anything at all. All of this is staffed by volunteers. As we go over here, you're going to see this area here. This is the medical area. This is staffed by volunteer doctors, nurses, holistic healers, and even surgeons from across the US and the world who have come here to volunteer their time to make sure everyone's safe. As you can see, there's the traditional medicine, but there's also all kinds of holistic healing, acupuncture, chiropractic. Isn't it incredible? There's a school. If you want to work and volunteer with the children, you can do that. Listen. You can hear the sound of traditional songs and drums filling the air. Smell the smoke. Isn't it amazing? Look at these people all working together from all walks of life, all generations, all nations. Those guys over there, those people over there who are erecting the teepee, or the stories that are being shared at the fires. Now let me ask you, was this what you saw portrayed by the media? Probably not. Maybe you heard about that night when the protesters were said to be throwing rocks and setting fires, and that was the story that the mass media put out. It was the night of November 20th. It was 23 degrees outside with a bitter wind. I was in camp, in my tent. I heard someone run through the camp, yelling, "My wife's just been shot in the head. We need water protectors at the bridge now." So I jumped up, grabbed my phone, and headed out of camp. Now, as you leave camp, there's the bridge on 1806, and just to the left, there's this hill. I headed up this hill because I knew this was the only place I'd be able to get service, to be able to share what I was seeing. Now, when I got up there, it was 6:28, and I turned my phone on and started to live stream. Now, because there was a lack of signal in that area and there were devices being used to try and prevent people being able to post to Facebook and to be able to share the true message of what was happening, it was a horrible, pixelated, grainy image. But what I did was I gave a running commentary of what I was seeing. It was horrific sight. It was like I was in a war zone, but only one side was armed. And that was the militarized police and the National Guard. There were about 400 people on this bridge. Now, if you imagine the bridge, on the left you have a concrete, on the right you have concrete. Ahead of you there are concrete barriers and then lines of razor wire and barbed wire, and behind that is where the militarized police are. You have 400 people on this enclosed space. They're firing round after round after round of tear gas. They're using a water cannon, 23 degrees. People are literally standing there with clothing that's being frozen to them. It's like a kill zone because you can't go left, you can't go right. You can't go forwards. And to go backwards, you'd be trampling on everyone behind you. So using tear gas in that situation is criminal. And that's what they were doing. You were seeing the canisters fly through the air. You could see the little incendiary devices that were flying. You could hear the shouts of, "Medic! We need a medic! Medic!" Those shouts and those scenes will haunt me for the rest of my life and every single person who was there. Now, that night through the live stream, instead of having 100 people watching, it ended up with 10, 100, 400, 2,000, 10,000, 30,000, 70,000, 80,000 people watching this live stream. I was one of a handful of people that could get the signal out that night. That live stream was shared across the world. It was shared by Senator Bernie Sanders, Dr. Jill Stein, Russia Today. And myself and a few other people became the eyes and ears for the world that night. My friend who was there, who had taken us on that tour of camp, she had gone to take some emergency blankets down to the people who were being hammered with that water cannon and coughing up that tear gas, that mace. Oh, I didn't mention they also had the long-range acoustic device, the LRAD. That's designed to disorientate people. It's a noise cannon. She went down there to take people blankets. And she came back up the hill to find me. She saw me. And I interviewed her. And I remember vividly what she told me. She told me that she had inhaled so much tear gas that it made her puke and cough so hard she wet herself. I had another guy who I interviewed that night on the hill there who told me he was stood right next to someone who was hit in the head with a non-lethal projectile that split their head open. There were people that night who lost vision in their eyes. Women and children were down there. And one of the lines I remember saying when I was talking to people was, "This could be your daughter, your granddaughter. In fact, it probably is for some of you." I was live streaming possibly that night. I finished at 2:42 in the morning. I don't really remember it. It didn't seem like it was 7 hours. But overnight, suddenly I'd gone from having a couple of thousand people on my Facebook to having this huge platform of over 80,000 people following one guy in his phone. Overnight famous. It was strange. It was scary. A lot of things happened. And I realized I had this huge platform to be able to shine a light on the things the media don't show you. So I stayed at Standing Rock until the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe chairman, Dave Archambault, asked anyone who wasn't part of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and didn't know how to survive the harsh North Dakota winters to please go back home to your families and continue the fight from there for the sacred water and for the indigenous sacred land. So that's what I did. In fact, in the last 5 months, alongside my girlfriend with just a mobile phone, I've traveled over 17,000 miles, finding out what activism truly is. I've been to New Mexico, to Chaco Canyon, to the Sable Trail pipeline in Florida that's going through the Everglades, the Diamond Pipeline in Oklahoma, and up to the Great Lakes in Michigan, which are under attack from Enbridge Pipeline 5, a 64-year-old pipeline that was supposed to only be there for 50 years and is still there, which was never had permission from the Anishinaabe people, whose territory it is, whose original land it is. if it was okay to put it there. So what have I found on this journey? You know, every place I've been, every threat, every pipeline, every mine, it's always been right there on the indigenous land. So, you know, what can we do? How can we as a community make a difference? First off, find out about the history of that land. The people who have always been there and have been the keepers of that land in your own area. If you're not sure how to do that, just look for the big environmental issue in your area and you'll find them. And then, once you find them and start to learn about it, talk about it, share it. Because what I've discovered on this journey is you only have to have a tiny little bit of knowledge for everyone to look on you as an expert. Because no one knows anything about it, because no one talks about it in the media. Our source of information doesn't share this. And what are the effects of us not knowing this? What's the effect of a false narrative being taught in schools? The real history not being taught? Well, why don't we ask one of the seventh generation who started the Standing Rock movement what it was like for him growing up in school?
It can often be very isolating. It can be very lonely. It can be very difficult to be proud of who you are, especially when everywhere around you there are nothing but lies about you and stereotypes about who you are. And you know, I've even been, when I remember being in high school, people would make comments like, well, Indians don't exist anymore. Or, oh my God, I can't believe you guys are still alive. And to hear things like that is not only insulting, but very degrading to your very moral being and your moral fiber.
Because we all have this role here as not activists. Can I redefine that? Can we use a different word? Because as soon as we say activist or activism, there's always negative connotations with it, all these labels that people come up with that mean there's a barrier that stops people from wanting to be involved. What if we redefine that? What if we call it caretaker of Mother Earth? Isn't that why we're all here in the first place? Sexism, racism, and even activism. These are just labels created for division, to make something about them and those others, making us forget we're just all sisters and brothers. So maybe it's time to change this play before we write our own doomsday. Take our lead from the native guides and draw in that wisdom from all sides. To come together for all we're worth, to be protectors of Mother Earth, to work as one big community, to spark the change and live in unity.